Hey everybody, how you doing, Sarah?
Hi, Andrew. So good to see you this afternoon.
That's right. And for everybody who is watching and coming in now, we are going to be focusing on AI tools in Adobe, presented by Sarah Schweiger. And Sarah, would you like to let everyone know what we are going to be going over exactly today?
So today I'm going to be talking about AI tools, some of my favorite AI tools in Adobe, and maybe having a little bit of a discussion on how people feel about AI. That's kind of the start of my whole presentation this evening. So,
Fantastic. And as a reminder, welcome everybody. Let us know where you're watching from. And I see people coming in. So Marcia's here from Los Angeles. It's
hey,
good to
Marcia.
see you here. Still looking for ways to improve prompts with people in them to get better poses, not have them all in the foreground. Yeah. And then
Yeah, that's a
Aiken,
knack in itself.
Aiken says, seen the event at Facebook. Thanks to Andrew and got here. Woohoo. And
Woohoo!
then
I
Miros
like that.
Tista. How do you say her name?
Miroslava. Miroslava. Yeah, Miroslava is one of my students at the Los Angeles Film School. So
Hello, Mrs. Schweiger.
makes
And my friend
me feel
Steven's
so
here.
old.
Steven from Prescott Valley, Arizona. We got David from Tampa, Florida.
A local.
Jamie from London, Ontario, Canada.
Woo, we're all over.
Friend Kathy from Southern California.
Hi, Kathy.
Great Plains Visual Productions from Omaha, Nebraska. And D. Wilson from Thousand Oaks. Good. Lots of people coming in.
Andrew, you were telling me about the Lightroom Virtual Summit that's coming up. Before we get
Oh, yeah.
started, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, real quick. So, starting on Monday, the 20th, the Lightroom Virtual Summit is happening. May 20th through 24th. You can register. I'll put the link in the description on the YouTube video of this recording as well. So you can click on that. But you can sign up for free or purchase a VIP pass. Um, as you can see on the right side, lots of great instructors. So, once again, that's the Lightroom Virtual Summit 2024 starts this Monday, May 20th through 24th. 15 world-class instructors, 45 classes in 5 days. Sign up
Ooh,
for free or get the VIP pass.
that's pretty
So
awesome.
should be great. And we got greetings. I see Jesus Ramirez. Yes, he's going to be part of that. Yep. Nicole Nelson, greetings from Northern California. Great. All right, well, we got lots to go over. So shall I share your screen?
Absolutely. We'll get started here.
Okay.
So today I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite AI tools in Adobe. Now, I'm not going to be going over every single AI tool that Adobe has. That would possibly be impossible. But what I thought I would do is start out this conversation with a few questions because even though I'm giving the presentation, I would love to hear from you as a viewer. What AI tools do you use and why? And if you don't use any AI tools, why? I know that this can sometimes be a controversial subject. But what I'm looking at when I'm looking at this, I kind of feel like when we're talking about AI tools, I kind of look at them as just that tools and not necessarily something that's going to replace me because I still have to make the decisions as from a like art director's position. I may still need to work with my client. AI is not going to ever work with my client. So there's still going to be in this need for a human intervention, so to speak. And so while I'm not necessarily taking a side that AI is great and AI is terrible, but instead I'm saying here's some really great tools that maybe could either A, speed up your workflow, give you some conceptual thinking opportunities, and B, just make an overall general project better, in the long run. So I see Miroslava says, I use the generative tool to either remove a background or fill an extra space that is blank. Fantastic. So another use of tools. That's fantastic. So
And
I'll go ahead. Yeah.
Aiken says, I use Firefly, also Firefly in Photoshop and Express, and sometimes Leonardo AI, which is similar to me. Yeah, great.
Yeah, so I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues at work. I'm an instructor at the Los Angeles Film School, and AI is all the buzz. And one of the things that I'm learning about AI is that you are creating basically content, either with prompts or, you're combining things together to create imagery. And one of the things that we're learning, that Adobe does not just scrape the world for its images. It's actually pulling its images from its huge, in fact, let me go ahead and just jump out of here for a second. You might be familiar with Adobe Stock, and Adobe Stock is this website where you can, I use this like daily for my projects. And so you can find images and videos and audio templates, 3D. I'm a big fan of free. I don't know if you guys are a big fan of free. And then there's a category called premium. So, when you're using Adobe products, not anything outside of Adobe, but when you're using Adobe products, you can be sure that they're not just scouring the world and giving you something to work with. Like, they're using their products. So that's something that I hope gives you a little bit of confidence when you're using the Adobe software, because I think that is a big major concern for a lot of people. So yeah, so let me just jump back in here. So I don't know if you noticed, but I'm actually using another software called Adobe Express for my presentation. So I just wanted to share that with you. I don't know if you know that, but you can actually put presentations together in, and you can present, which I'm going to go ahead and present again. So there you go. So just another piece of information. So getting back to my presentation, incorporating AI into conceptual thinking. So one of the things that I've been doing prior to teaching was I was working with clients, and a lot of times they could be anything from riding instructor Barnes to developing total, complete identity systems for restaurants. And so one of the things that I feel like AI is very good at is the idea of using it for conceptual thinking. And so when you think about creating an identity system for a restaurant, you immediately think of certain things like logo treatments and color palettes and type styles and photographic imagery and more. And so when you're first meeting with a client, I think that, using a product, I'm going to go ahead and jump out of here again, because I'm going to be jumping around tonight. I really think that a product like Adobe Firefly is wonderful to kind of kick off your creative process, right? Because as designers, we're not always thinking in words. Some of us do, but a lot of us are thinking in visuals. And so if you're working on a project, I'll give you the example of like a restaurant, right? If you're working on a brand new restaurant, you might come in here and a lot of times, clients, they not only need those logos and that sort of thing, but you may be working on what the interiors are going to look like, what the exteriors are going to look like. You might be working on signage. You may be working on social media. And so Firefly is a great place to kind of come in here and start your process, right? And so a lot of times restaurants are great because, as a client, because you're diving into the different senses. You're diving into sight, you're diving into hearing, you're diving into smelling, you're diving into tasting. And so imagery inside of Firefly is going to reflect all of those senses. You can pull imagery from here to start your mood board, your creative process. And so why I like it is that, this is, like I said, it's a great starting place. And it's a visual starting place.
And
go ahead.
And I was going to say also, the one great thing about this too is any image that you see here that you like and you want to reference that yourself, you can click on it and you can start from that image with the prompt. So there is the prompt at the bottom.
Yep.
And then, of course, you would want to tweak it to make it your own, make it personalized. But it's that easy where you can just click on any image that you like as a starting point and then just tweak the prompt to kind of take it further.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so you could take something like this, and this could be your starting point for, like I said, a restaurant or of some sort, right? A lot of times I find myself when I'm working on a restaurant rebrand or a brand new restaurant, it's like, okay, where am I at? I'm at a restaurant, right? So I might start with a prompt like restaurant, for my prompt, right? And so I can choose, try prompt, and what will it's going to give you some very generic, maybe internal images of a restaurant, maybe some external images. It might even show some chefs. In this case, is a very like kind of modern, maybe feels kind of more up north, right? But the more prompts, the more information that you give Firefly, the more it's going to give you back. And so, you know, the good thing about restaurants is, like I said, you can rely on all the different senses. And so as I continue to work on this, I'm going to go ahead and keep adding some more prompts to see what it's going to give me. So now I'm going to go on to an Italian restaurant. So if I'm narrowing it down now, it's like, okay, what else? Well, one of the things that I always teach in my classes, so I teach 3 main classes. I teach design strategy, communications and identity, and UX UI. And so I'm going to show you some examples from all 3 of those classes that I work on. And so another thing that I always encourage my students to do is say, okay, well, if this is a project for an Italian restaurant, like let's talk about geography for a second. So let's start narrowing down the location. So if I want to build a brand for an Italian restaurant, what about considering the location? Putting in a geographical location is going to, again, narrow down. So you're going to start to see elements that revolve around Pasadena. Or, you know, maybe you can even have some background imagery, such as not only do I want to see, you know, imagery from Pasadena, but I want in the background, I want the San Gabriel Mountains. Okay. And so now that's narrowing it down even more. And so with a fictitious brand, I'm going to just use a fictitious brand for my presentation today. I like where it's going, but the one thing that I know about clients is that as soon as they see an image, it's like concrete in their brain. They see it and they either hate it or they love it. And so one of the things that I like to do with Firefly is, and this is kind of a newer tool in Firefly, is that over here on the left-hand side, there is some filtering systems that are on the left-hand side. And so here we've got the structure filter, we've got a styles filter, and we've got a content type filter. And so one of the things I like to do is I like to go under structure and browse more. And so in a second, I'm going to use this image here. But before I do that, one of the things that I like to do is, because it's the beginning, it's the conceptual thinking process, I like to make my mood boards and anything I'm going to show the client more simplified. I don't want to show them something that's complete yet. These images to me feel a little too complete right now. And so one of the things that I can do is I can go under another one of these categories, which is the styles, and choose browse gallery and go down to the digital illustration, because again, I want to simplify my design and include that. So one of the things I like to use is the digital illustration, like the line art. So if I add that to the design, what I'm starting to see now is some line drawings that are going to be more on the side of simplistic, but yet still giving the characteristics of where I'm trying to go, because it's not going to be adding any color at this point. It's not going to add any actual imagery, but instead it's giving me a line art that I can then work from, that I can add to my mood board, that I can actually conceptualize on. And so getting back to my presentation here for a second, I'm going to go down to the next screen. I'm going to move on. These are some of the IA conceptual images that I created using Firefly. And so here is a really nice, beautiful outdoors. Now, in this case, I didn't use the San Gabriel Mountains in the background, but you can kind of see these are really nice renderings to kind of start off with. And a lot of times when you start on a project this early in the phase, they don't have a building up, right? Maybe they're going to be building. And so you could use this and bring this into your conceptual thinking process to start to give them ideas. Like, what is the interiors are going to look like? What should the exteriors look like? And granted, they will be working with an architect, but a lot of times architects are not easily available. And so that's another reason why I like this rendering approach, because number one, it gives your project a little bit extra depth, the extra mile for your client, for them not even asking for it while you're still saving time. You can create these mood boards to scaffold your design process while still keeping the same look and feel throughout the process. And so what's nice is I'm going to escape out of here. Oops, let me go back. I'm going to escape out of here and go back into Firefly for one more treatment, which if I go close that and then go up to the structural, because I have the style reference, I can now go and create my interior shots, and I can narrow those things down too. And it's going to keep the same exact styling of that nice line art, which is really a beautiful thing when you're working on a brand new brand. So here's some nice interiors. And so you can see the mountains. Yes, they look kind of generic, but at the same time, this allows you to now paint on them yourself. It allows you to kind of start to imagine. You can always change the structure, like, looking at it from the chef's point of view, or looking at it from the kitchen point of view, or looking at it from the, when you first walk in, what are the things that the client's going to ask you to do? And so this breaks from the traditional photos used in conceptual thinking in your brand style guides and your scaffolding projects for your client. And so in addition to this, it also helps you practice good prompts in Firefly. It helps you when you're looking for, when you go into here, and you can take some of these prompts, right? And so when you start to look for your photography, you could go back to the prompts that you have started in your conceptual thinking process. And so this is I think it's a fantastic process for that. Okay, so do we have any questions? I'm going to go ahead and move on if we don't.
No, it's nice though. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, it's really nice that there's so many options on that left side panel in Adobe Firefly, where, you go to some of the other AI apps and they're very limited. Here, it's not the case, so.
I just want to try one more prompt. Italian restaurant. So watch this. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I was playing around with this Italian restaurant chefs. I believe it's still going to give me that same nice line drawings. But you want to bring in some chef imagery. You want to bring in some signage imagery. It didn't give it to me. It did give it to me a couple days ago, where I don't know. I don't remember what the prompt was now though, but I kept everything the same. But all I did was change that prompt, and it gave me that nice line art drawing. But it didn't work tonight. That's okay.
Well, you might have to do some like Italian restaurant with a chef standing on the right.
Yeah, and I maybe took too much out, and maybe the last time I left a lot more in. So that's the thing, is that and I think that's probably why I like Firefly, is that it starts me with a visual. It doesn't start me with text. And so if you look at it from that point of view, that's when I think it's a key winner for me.
And you do have a question. So
sure.
From David asks, is Firefly included in the Creative Suite?
I believe that Firefly is a separate program, is it not?
Well, it's also listed like in your Creative Cloud app. But the one thing to be aware of is that if you go directly to the website, I think it's firefly.adobe.com.
Yeah, that's why I didn't think it was part of Creative Cloud.
Yeah, if you go there and you do not have a Creative Cloud thing, then there's a certain amount of credits you have. But yet,
yes.
if you have a Creative Cloud plan,
yes.
you get more credits and therefore can create more and faster. So.
Yes. And I believe not to have the software, but just to have an Adobe account. It's free to have an Adobe account. It's just a matter of then, okay, what are you going to add? Are you going to add Photoshop? Are you going to add, because Adobe Express, some parts of Adobe Express are free. And so but you have to have an Adobe account. So the Adobe account is free, but all the software that you add to your repertoire is where, everything starts to, okay, that costs this much. Or if you're owning all of Creative Cloud for, a whole year, that's a whole different thing. So I believe though Adobe Firefly is its own separate thing that you can access through Creative Cloud. Right. And so one thing that I like to show a lot of people is if you click up here where you click on Creative Cloud, this is kind of a nice little I don't know, frame, so to speak, where you can go and access when you have the complete set. You can access your Adobe Express. You can access your InDesign. You can make changes to things and that sort of thing. So I like this because it also gives me access to all of the photography and the vector files and the fonts. Oh, big time. That's really super important here for me as a graphic designer, is I'm constantly coming in, turning on fonts, turning off fonts, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to share that with you, that if you have this Creative Cloud button, you just click that and then you have access to everything. I don't know if most people knew that, but
Cool.
okay. So the next tool that I want to talk about is in our friend Adobe Illustrator. And so here is a poster that was done, I think, in 2012, 2015. I took all the branding off of it because it was done for a nonprofit, and it's like 12 years old, or something like that now.
Sure.
It might have been done in 2015. But one of the things that you notice about this poster is that it's flattened. You can't do much with it except look at it. Well, that's until Adobe invented the retype tool that allows you to go into something that's old like this or flattened. A lot of times when you're working on a project and maybe you land the job and you go into the files and your boss asks you to make changes to something that's been flattened, you're kind of out of luck. You're kind of recreating stuff. You're going into Photoshop, you're touching it up, but something like this, where there's like a gradient in the background, that makes it even 10 times harder. So one of the newer tools to Adobe Illustrator is the Adobe Type tool. And so one of the things that I want to show you is what you'll want to do is select the object, which I have selected now. And you want to go into Type, and then down to retype. So there's two options here. You've got your match font and you've got your edit text. Now I could choose match font, but that's not going to really do too much for me. What I want to do is I actually want to use this file, make changes to it. I need to change it to 6:15 versus 6 o'clock. So choosing the edit text is the way to go. And then what that does is that opens up a new screen, so to speak. Now, I do want to share something with you. This is in beta, so very important. So if you notice, the first thing that it selects is that word date. And as I'm looking through these fonts, you can see that that font is not coming up. And the reason for that is this is still in beta and they're still working on it. So, give it some grace at this point in time, right? I can also narrow down my fonts. So let's just say this is a font, and I can tell you for sure that this is not an Adobe font. It's actually a font that was on a CD that's in my other room, and I don't know where it is, right? But let's just say I know it's not an Adobe font, and I do know that it's loaded on my computer. I can actually turn this off, and it will only show me the fonts that are on my device. And so that kind of helps you narrow down, especially if I had to go in and instead of it saying save the date, I needed it to say, something else. This is just my little tool to do that. And so this is a filtering system. And so I do want to share all these little details with you because, like I said, it's not perfect yet, but it's getting there. So give it some grace right now. And so as you can see, as I'm clicking on each one of these, it's offering up suggestions. Now, I know for sure that this is the Minion 3 bold, okay, because I had to create something for the presentation, right? So I do know that. But did you notice that when I clicked on this also is Minion 3 bold, but as I'm looking through these fonts, Minion is not showing up. And so there is a workaround for this, right? I could come in here. Well, first I could tell this to go ahead and apply one of these other fonts to it. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay. And so now if I exit out, I can now edit it. So I'm going to zoom in here so you can see that it's now editable. It's not the right font, but it is editable. But, I can work around this. I'm going to go ahead and select the poster again. This time I'm going to choose edit text. And I'm going to choose the cocktail this time. This time it did give me the right font for that particular one. And so what I could do is I could turn this to an editable text at this point. and I could copy and paste and then make my 615 and delete this one here. So I can fix it, right? But I wanted to show you this because there are times where you just need to make that one little change to the text. And I feel like this retype, even though it's in beta right now, I feel like this could be a bit beneficial to many, many people. So,
And then Sarah, there's a couple
yeah,
questions.
sure.
And I could even answer the first one if you want. But
Okay, yeah, sure.
So Edward asks, is generative AI like Firefly in the Adobe applications? And as you will see with Sarah's presentation today, yes, that the AI is in all of the different Adobe
Yeah.
apps that she's showing today. And then Edward asks, can you do a global font change, I guess, with this process, with retype?
So right now, the way that it's allowing me to select the individuals, it's not necessarily acting like a global process, right? Because I have to literally click on every single one of them. Now, is that something that they're going to put into this? Possibly, right? But right now it's in the beta. So again, if you just need a quick fix for something, this would be a really great tool to use. I know that a lot of us have done stuff like this in Adobe Acrobat in the past. But if you're not really comfortable using Adobe Acrobat, this would be a great tool for you to use. Okay. So let me move on now to the next part. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. So I'll just hit exit. And I will tell you too that when you're trying any of these AI tools, so to speak, you notice that nothing really prompted me to do anything. I mean, I just went kind of right into it. And that's because I'm already using this. So don't be frightened when you use it for the first time and it says, you know, it says a bunch of stuff like, hey, are you okay with this? And are you okay with that? You just hit okay, you know. So that didn't happen when I was demonstrating it, but that will happen with some of these AI tools that are in beta right now. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk to you about is how I'm using AI for UX UI design, believe it or not, right? So a lot of times when you're working on a project for a company, you may be a freelancer to the project. You might not get a style guide to work on. They might not even give you hardly anything to work off of, but the only thing that you have going on the project is that you have access to it. So here's an example of a screenshot from the Forever 21 website. And if I were working in UX UI and I needed to know, like, what fonts am I using here, right? A lot of times I'm going to jump into, hang on, I'm going to minimize this for just a second. I'm going to go back into my presentation here. I'm going to go to the next screen. So we're talking about that one. The way that most people who know a little bit of CSS and that sort of thing, I'm going to go ahead and present this so you can see it, is the way that we go out and find information is that we go the developer's approach, which is retrieving fonts, right? So we go onto the website, or in some cases, if you're working on an app, you might not be able to do this, right? Because apps work differently than websites. But if I were working on this particular website, I could go under the view, I could go under developer tools and under styles. And in here, we can see that this gives us some CSS. So I know that in this particular brand, I either need to use a sans serif or more ideally, I need to use Roboto. The problem with this is that a lot of people, when they see code, they freak out. They're like, I don't want to have to look at that. I'm a graphic designer. Just tell me what I need to do so I can get this project done. And so one of the techniques that I like using the Adobe Retype tool is for collecting information about a UX UI project. And so one of the things that I can kind of do in here is I can do the same process that I did with the poster. So a print campaign or a UX UI campaign is if I don't have the information or I'm working as a freelancer and I still have to get that information, I can come in here, I can select I can take a screenshot on the website. I can come in here, I can select it, and I can choose the same process, which is going to be my edit text tool. And so we know based on the data from the CSS that that they're using Roboto. And so we can we know that, but if we're not sure, we don't want to go in this process, I can now start clicking on some of the typography in here. And as I'm working through this, I can see if it has something that's going to match the brand. And sure enough, it found Roboto as the typeface that's being used on this particular website. So this is just another tool in your arsenal when you're working on a project like this. And I think it's just kind of thinking outside the box when you're working on a UX UI project, especially if you're like a freelancer or something like that, where they don't have time to send you any kind of brand guides or anything like that. No worries, you'll figure it out because you've got tools in Adobe. So just another way, and you can do it with internal screens as well. Like if I were to select this, and I can go over here to my type tool and go to retype and hit edit text. It's gonna give me a lot of options here, and you can see like it's not perfect yet, and that's at the end of the day, it's okay. You know, it's gonna get there though. But it did give me it on the very first screen. So that's just another way to use the tools kind of in a different way, right? Any questions so far, Andrew? Are we good to keep moving forward?
I just had a quick question, which was,
Sure.
I know I see that you could access that even with like a screenshot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if there's any limitations of what files you could not, bring into Illustrator and be able to bring in the text?
Well, probably you're only limited to what you can place. So if you created a new file, I'll go ahead and create one, and then just hit place. So whatever, it's already basically you're limited to probably that.
Which is still a pretty big menu, right? It's a big menu of options.
I mean, I'm looking at this now here. I'm just seeing if there's anything in here.
JPEG.
Now, I will say you can place things in here, but I think it's still kind of reading the screen. So if there's multiple layers and stuff like that, you might be better off flattening it anyways, because you want to give it the most clean version possible to get the right typography. That's the thing that I've noticed too about this retype tool, is that you've got to have the most clean, pixel perfect, so to speak, screenshots you can possibly get. Like if you've got a couple degenerations down from your screenshot, it's probably going to struggle on something like that.
Cool.
So yeah. Yep. All right. Anything else? You see any other questions, or are we?
We're good to go. Yeah.
Good to go.
Keep
Okay.
going.
So while we're still in Illustrator, I thought I would talk to you about two more tools I'm kind of a big fan of. I'm probably more of a big fan of these than maybe the retype tool, because it is so basic. Like, it does what it does, and that's kind of the end of the road, right? So the next thing that I want to talk about, and let me go ahead and open up a file. Let's see. There it is. There's my Volkswagen. So you just saw just a second ago a flattened version of a poster that was done. Now let's talk about vector files. So here's that same Volkswagen bus, right? And this time I want to show you that this particular file is actually truly a vector file. I love showing people that you can go into view and go to outline. That's going to show you for sure that you have vectors in your file. I show this a lot in my classes because a lot of times students like to do logos in Photoshop sometimes and other programs. And I always am telling them, no, you really need a vector file. Here's all the reasons why. But so showing that preview and, showing it in outline, that guarantees you definitely have a vector file that you're working from. So just kind of check that as you're working. I'm going to close the retype tool here for a second. And so the next thing that I want to show you is another beta in beta, and that is the mockup tool. So if you go over to Object and you go down to Mockup Beta with the vector file selected and choose Make, in here, it's opened up a new window, and you can see right away that it's already placing this vector file right into mockups. Like, how quick was that? I did nothing except turn the thing on, right? And so what's nice about this is that I can come in here, and I kind of like this bag. I kind of dig it, so to speak, with the actual illustration. It kind of feels like it should go on that bag. So I'm going to go ahead. I can now edit this a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And so I'm going to zoom into this if you don't mind. And so a couple of things that I want to do here. I want to rotate it just ever so slightly. Okay, so you can imagine this being like, say, a logo or any kind of marketing materials for your project, right? And so one of the things that's really cool is if I were to size this up, I'm going to just size it up to fit it on the bag. Watch what happens to the artwork when I slide it over.
And how you say it? Miros?
Yep.
She says I could use the mock-up beta for my logo and have it on different mock-ups.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's another thing that as an instructor with the school is that at least 2 of my classes, they are creating mock-ups with logos that they're so great question. Are these mock-ups free? Well, great question. You can see that this is a watermarked mock-up at this point. And so I have not purchased it. I have not downloaded it. I don't know if this particular one that has been selected for me, so to speak, is free. So that's kind of like one of those questions that I would then need to go back and go on to Adobe Stock. I could punch in that number and see if it falls under the free category. Because remember, I love this category right here. I love it for students too, right? So I could punch that number in and see if that does fall over. If it does, then I can go ahead and download it, right? And then use it in the same process, right? So think of what I'm sharing with you right now is just like, is this the mock-up I want, right? Like I didn't have to go out and download it from, I'm just saving myself time. Is this the mock-up I want? If it is, then I've got to go decide on whether or not, this is going to be something that I want to invest in and I'm going to buy because it is not free, or it's free, we're good, I just have to download it now. So this is kind of more like, hey, do I like that? Do I like the way it even looks on this bag? And it's just a time saver, right? At the end of the day. And so my imagining of this is that they're just going to keep developing this more. I'd like to see in their UI, ways to filter free versus, premium. That would be super helpful for people like myself. I don't know if they have plans for that, but I would really love that. That would be so helpful, I think. So one of the things you'll notice is the smoke that's coming out of the Volkswagen is wrapping nicely around. And so this is really nice because, again, I haven't spent a lot of time, right? So this is a time saver. I can just now show this to my client. And if they don't like it, I didn't spend hardly any time on it, right? Like I can trash it really quickly if I have to. So again, this is just a little time saver. And under the drop-down menu, you have apparel, you have digital devices, and you have packaging. So these are kind of all the main mock-ups that most of us use. And I can almost see that category, if enough people use this, as growing over time, depending on how people need to mock things up. Like I would love to have interiors, right? Like getting back to the restaurant theme, I would love to have some nice wall interiors so that if I wanted to do some wall graphics for my fictitious restaurant, that I can do the artwork, make it all vector, and then splash it up. And if I wanted to wrap around, like if I've got a corner, I want to be able to see what that's going to look like that if I can. I would love that. So that's just a little, if Adobe's watching, hey, I'd love that.
So Edward asks a great question. Is there a way to create custom mockups that we could use to add items onto?
Not through this yet. But I'm hoping, like, again, if I could get the ear, of the ear of those powers that may be, you can kind of see it's a very simplistic in the beta feel right now. So they're only giving you like, hey, here's some suggestions right now, so to speak.
Right.
Right.
So in the future, you might have the ability to upload
Yeah.
your own mock-ups, a series of mock-ups, and then add your logo or whatnot onto it. Yeah.
One of the things that I've experienced recently is I've been doing some testing on Adobe Express. And while one of the things that I notice is that the more folks use beta items in their software, because they can track all that, right? Like they can see who's using it, who's not using it. They make decisions based on usage. So the more of us that use this on a regular basis, the more they're going to say, oh, this is an important tool. We need to invest in it. We need to have more people, testing it, trying things out, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the one thing I've learned in just my short period of time of testing things on Adobe Express for the phone and for the mobile. So the more feedback we can give them, the more we're going to probably get more products and services that are in our workflow. So
Right.
just a thought. So
Nice.
yeah, so before we go though, I want to show you one more tool that's kind of cool.
Wait, there's more.
Oh wait, there's more. Yes. Okay. So what's another tool that is super cool in I'm going to move this. Hang on, let me get this out of the way here. Let's just put it over here to the side. There's another tool in Photoshop, in Illustrator, and I noticed this only happens in the most recent version of Adobe Illustrator. So I'm working in Adobe Illustrator 2024, but I can come down here and there's a recolor tool. So let's just say that I love my VW bug, but my client's like, yeah, can we change that up a little bit? Yeah, we can. Do I want it to be a little bit more blue? Maybe so. So I can kind of come in here, and what it will do is it'll start giving me options. I'm not a big fan of that one, to be honest with you, though. But I could come in here and literally manually change every single color, or I could use a regenerative recolor version of that. So I can come in here. I like this one myself a little bit because it's going to give me some greens, I'm hoping. Yeah, so it's giving me some soft muted colors that I really like. So I can change that, and I could literally go back into my quick mock-up beta and just tell it, hey, can we see that now in the blue? And then it does it. And I think I spent like 2 seconds maybe to see what that was going to look like. So that's a really quick and very powerful tool. And it's just another tool that I think lends itself well for people who are working on branding and marketing and logo design and that sort of thing. So that was real quick.
Excellent.
Yeah. So can I now jump over to Photoshop and InDesign?
That would be fun.
Okay, great. So I'm just gonna minimize that. I've got the good old InDesign here. So let's jump forward now. I was just talking about, the beginning of my presentation, I was talking about, coming up with the, conceptualizing for a restaurant. And now it's time. I've got my logo. The client's super happy. And it's now time to create the brand style guide. And so I've got this photograph here. It's in InDesign. In fact, this document is actually the whole thing is the brand style guide. So I've got my story and a table of contents and the mission and a whole bunch of other things right in the brand style guide. So it's almost done, but I really like to improve on the photo. And what I mean by that is I like the photo, but I'd like to create some interest on the right-hand side. So this side of the photo, because it seems a little dull, like, okay, but I'd like to have some, let's frame it a little bit better. So the next thing I can do is, oh yeah, so this happens too. I'm gonna make him go away. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this up in Photoshop, and not the beta, but the full version of Adobe Photoshop 2024. And in here, there is tools. Remember Miroslava. I love it too. Yeah. Yep. She remembers it from our class. So I've got this restaurant photo, nice, beautiful pasta image. And I'd actually like to add some elements on the right-hand side, like I shared with you. So down here, let's put some olives. So all I did was I grabbed this tool over here called the lasso tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just type in olives. I'm going to generate. And so in a matter of a few seconds, it's going to give me a couple different options for olives. What I love about this tool, again, getting back to the photos that are actually being shown in here, is that, let's see, here's my properties. So it's given me a couple different options here. But one of the things that I can be reassured about is that the photos that Adobe is suggesting to me, they're legal. In other words, they didn't scrape them from somewhere. These photos actually appear somewhere in stock photo, in the stock photos. So that's really beneficial. And the other thing that it does is it's taking a look at the lighting that's in my photo. So I can start, coming through here and choosing something. I'm still not a huge fan of any of these. I can keep doing this for a while to find them my favorite, and maybe I need to make it bigger. But in the meantime, while it's doing its thing over here, what I think I'll do is I'm going to put some, let's see, let's do some rosemary over here. I just want some sprigs, just to kind of frame it a little bit nicer. So I'm already starting with a photo. This photo can be found in Adobe stock. Oh, I like that one. Okay, let's use that one. I'm not a big fan of the olives, but I could keep working on that a little bit more. When I did this presentation before in the past, I got some really pretty olives. These olives are like, they're okay. So now I can sit there, I can save it as a PSD file. The reason why I want to save it out as a PSD file is that clients like to change their mind constantly. And so if I save it out as a PSD file, I can then later on go in and change them out. I can get rid of the olives, for instance, if they don't like it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that and hit OK. And now I can come back into InDesign, go to my links palette and relink that file, which is in here. Let's see. Let's see.
Maybe under the icons, an area to choose date modified.
There it is. It's at the bottom.
Okay.
It's always at the bottom. Have you ever noticed that? So that looks pretty nice because that kind of frames it a little bit nicer.
Gremlins are teasing us, right?
What's that?
The tech gremlins like to tease us.
Yes, they always do. Okay, one more thing I want to show. So in Adobe InDesign, so not only can you update photos that already exist, but let's just say I've got one more photo I need to add to this design. Well, what should we add, guys? Some pasta?
And you have a couple of questions too from Edward.
Sure.
So first is, do I have to have an Adobe stock photo account to use Adobe
So
stock?
the way that I understand it to be is that once you have an Adobe account, which is free to have again, Adobe stock is if you're choosing free, then you already have an account. You just download your stock or your illustration or your whatever. If it's a premium image, then you would have to buy whatever system or setup that they have, so to speak, for that. So like if it means like points or sometimes it's you pay for so many credits. Like sometimes it works like that. I haven't purchased any in a while because I love my free. So once you have that account, it connects you. So if you buy something that's free, essentially, right? It's part of Creative Cloud now. Like you have an account, so to speak. So it's not like a separate entity. Like it works like okay, let me show you. Hang on. Because
right, because he was asking, when you use this feature, does it tell you what it will cost to add these images?
Yes. So I'm in Adobe Stock right now, and I'm also a creative. So you can see my little picture over here, right? Like I'm in my creative account.
That's right.
So if this one happens to be free, I can click on it and I can license it for free. And so what that's going to do is that has downloaded to my library. Okay. But also, if I go over and open up my downloads on my desktop, it's going to be there too. So there it is. So if I'm old school and this is how I get my photos when I download, this is the way I would do it. But if I'm high tech and I use libraries and InDesign, I can bring them in that way too, because it has downloaded to my libraries. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
And then he also asks, Edward asks, the branding guide that you are using, was it created by you?
Yeah. Yep. To
Of
help
course
my
he was.
students. Yeah. Yeah. I got to show them, what that is, so I got to, long time ago now. Okay.
And then Miro says, we could add a chicken Alfredo with fettuccine pasta for the image.
Chicken Alfredo with, oh man,
fettuccine pasta.
CCINI. I'm probably spelling it wrong. That is not my forte. Let's try it. Let's see what comes up. You can see I've got a lot of pasta going on here. So let's see what it does. Oh, another thing you should know, right? So I can tell it my ratio. So this is a much more vertical photo than it is horizontal. Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I could come in here. Let's just say I have a frame, but it's like a circle or it's some kind of abstract shape. I can tell it, hey, use the frame dimension to get the image. In other words, pick things based on the actual frame. Or I can say, hey, no, I need something that's a little bit more vertical. Can you hook me up with something that's a little bit more vertical? So it's going to give me some more vertical images now.
So Edward asks, and there's also, I think, another way of asking.
I like that one better.
But Edward says, while you're in the creative mode, does it watermark the images? And I was going to add on to that. If you choose like the free version of the stock, does it watermark the images? I guess same type of thing.
Well, let's see. I don't see any watermarks. However, let's go ahead and go in here. So I'm not seeing any watermarks like right off the bat. Are you?
Nope.
Okay. It is, though, the name is so it is identifying it as a generated image, so to speak. And another thing is right now is the actual PPI, which is 72. Effective PPI is 251. I go no lower than 150 myself when we're doing a project like this. So I would still need to go bring it into Photoshop and make sure I rebalance it out to the 150, because right now it's only at 72. However, it's a very big dimension, so I can actually make the dimension physically smaller and still keep the 150.
Right. So that's probably their catch, that if you choose the free version, it's going to always be at 72 pixels per inch, and therefore you might have to take it upon yourself to pay for the license to get a higher resolution.
Right. And remember, a lot of times this work, in my opinion, again, getting back to the very first question that I posed, which is, how do you use it? And my comment after that was, kind of look at everything that's generative AI as more conceptual in the beginning. Because at the end of the day, your clients are probably going to shoot their own stock photography because it's going to be their product. So that's, you're as graphic designers, we're shooting for the look. We're building for the brand. We're building elements to create emotion in the eyes of the behold, right? Like, so if you kind of look at it as like, this is just getting us started and it's not the end all be all, then you're not going to be let down as much, right? Like, so kind of think of it that way. Yeah.
But I was going to also say it's a great way to get the whole layout together, where
Mhm.
then when the client gives you the photo, you just pop that
Pop 'em
in and
in.
you have
Yep.
the whole layout pretty much done, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah.
Yep. And so here's the final logo on
Pretty
some touch
cool.
points and menu and that sort of thing. So absolutely,
Did
like
you make that up? Divine Possibilities?
I borrowed the name.
I like it though. Yeah.
But yeah.
I like the color theme too, the purple and gold.
Yeah, right? Like I love it. See, I have purple on. I like this color for some reason. Yeah. Yeah. It's just it's like a rich color.
That's what I
And
have.
that's cool.
My Chrome browser is like a deep purple, different shades of purple.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like as designers, our goals are to, create the environment, create the mood, create the thing that we're going to build on, and that's why we have to kind of set the stage and then your client's gonna come back and be like, yeah, I hate purple, okay, let's go back to the drawing board,
Wheat womp.
yeah.
You create the
Well,
whole
that's
thing. You're
why
like,
I mean
can we
I
change the whole color theme?
well, we can now in the recolor tool as long as we keep everything
Right.
vector, we're good. So
Right.
that is oh, there's one more thing. Do I have time to show one more thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, one more thing. It's a pattern thing. So, okay, so I've been, I was just working on the divine possibilities. So, a lot of times when you work on a brand that is for a restaurant, you have to create patterns. And so, Illustrator, thank you very much, has a new tool. It's another AI tool, guys. So if you create create a brand new document, and let's just say let's pull this in because this is the logo right from that. Let's go ahead and put this in here. And what I want to do is, so this is kind of I'm using this as my guide to like, okay, how do I judge whether the pattern is good or not? And so you can see with this particular bow tie pasta image is very basic, right? It's a basic shape. And if I'm creating a pattern for it, I want that pattern to mimic it. So I'm going to go ahead and start out with just building a square, okay? And so now you can actually edit the path. So what that does is that opens up a new screen, and I want to create a pattern. And so one of the things, so being very particular with your prompts in Firefly is super important. But if you're trying to go the opposite direction and you want simplicity, less is better in your prompt. So with that, let's just say I wanted a veggie and pasta pattern. It gives you some sample prompts, but this is specific for the restaurant. So veggie and pasta, let's see what it comes up with. And what it does is it creates a pattern, multiple patterns that you can kind of choose from. But a lot of people are probably going to ask, is it vector based? In other words, can I take it and run with it? I didn't like that one. It doesn't really match my colors yet. This one's better. I could probably use bits and pieces of this because it's like more simplified. But I'll show you what I made prior. It made me this one. I like this one. And so I put the logo in here. And so one of the things about
Very
pattern,
Italian, right? Very.
yeah, right? So if you'll notice, I'm going to use this tool again, view outline. When I hit the outline tool, you'll notice it's not vector, but there's a workaround for that. So let's go back into preview mode. So if the client's like, yeah, I love that, can we use that on like the menu? And I want to just put it at the bottom and it's just going to be extra. Yes, because we need it to be vector so we can size it for different sizes. So if we take the shape, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. You can see I've actually vectorized it. So here's my vector items. So if you take the shape, let's copy it and paste it. Okay. And as you can see, as I move it around, it's just all one pattern. But if you take this shape and you go up to object and you choose expand, and fill is the one that you want to choose. And then you go over to and you choose Alt, Command, and 7. What that did was, let's look at the layers now. I'm over here. What that's done is it's created a bunch of groups of it. I don't need all of it. I could need all of it, but I don't. I'm just trying to show you. So I'm going to ungroup this. And what that left me was a bunch of squares. So I'm just going to get down to the one square. Just to show you. So we're not done yet. Let's stick. Okay. So now in this group, we have some clipping paths. I need to delete that to get out of there. I'm going to come in here and delete that. Now I can start to delete all this extra stuff. Now I see that it's still grouped. So there's a lot of ungrouping that needs to happen. That's okay. I can work through this. I mean, considering how quickly it created a pattern for me, like in seconds, like I think I can spend the time to just do this part right here, right? And so now I can come in here and these are all vectorized. Let me come back over here. I just have to ungroup it. But I've got my leaf piece. I've got and I can literally, like, I can now pick apart the pieces I want for my final design. But like, how quick was that? Like,
It's cool. I like basil leaf too. It reminds me.
You like the basil? We do. Or like, let's just say, you know, you don't want that color. You just, because you're going to use a different color in the background, right? So it cuts it up, you know. I could then come in here and obviously I need to fix some of like the pasta's not looking so good, but like I love the tomatoes. Like I think the tomatoes are super cute. And like, yeah, I like the basil leaves. Those turned out really good. But then you can kind of come in here and use Pathfinder and combine those shapes together and get your final piece. But again, everything's quick. It's conceptual. It's, you know, and then it could turn into your final thing, but it's quick to get you steps moving in the right direction, so to speak. So that's it. That's all I've got for you.
Nice. So Rose asks, I only have Photoshop. Can I make patterns in other Adobe programs? I think for now it's focused on Illustrator.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So the generative AI part is focused on Illustrator right now. But, you know, the more people talk on, you know, going to the community boards and saying, you know, I'd really like, because guess what? Adobe pays attention to those community boards.
Yeah.
They do. Big time. So the more we are active in asking for things and demonstrating things and putting your work out there, the more Adobe responds to that kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, we really need to focus on this software because everybody's wanting this right now, you know.
All right. Excellent. Fantastic. So shall I share ways that they can find you online?
Sure.
Great. I'm not sure if you can hear the booming bass, but there's like a DJ next door.
Oh, nice. Is the music good?
I just hear like a booming bass. That's all I hear. Yeah, that's right. PhotoStrator has to come out.
Oh, that's a lot. Well, isn't that Adobe Express? It's sort of that way.
Kind of becoming mixed. So, so first, once again, I want to remind everyone that the Lightroom Virtual Summit is coming starting Monday, May 20th through 24th. Make sure to sign up. You can sign up for free, but there's also VIP passes where you can get the downloads, watch the recordings to your heart's content, and special notes and other goodies. And that is at bit.ly Lightroom Virtual Summit 2024, bit.ly, /24. And I'll also put that in the recording link. Then you can find Sarah at sarahschweiger.com. And then for the Tampa Adobe user group, that's the correct spelling, right? 2 A's, Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa Adobe usergroup.com. Okay, yep. And then also on Facebook.
And then also on Facebook, where I put the nice sunny face emoji. Tampa Bay Adobe user group, Facebook groups.
It's definitely warm these days. Yes,
Tampa Bay
absolutely.
Adobe, right? And then I was going to remind everyone that if you haven't joined my groups already, there's first is the Tampa Bay Adobe user group. Do join, and then consider joining the AI art and digital art group, facebook.com/groups, AI art, digital art. And then my Photoshop and Lightroom group, facebook.com/groups, Photoshop Lightroom group. And we got some last comments. Let's see. Thanks heaps for the comments. Oh, yeah. And then Aiken says, someone's partying hard at Andrew's neighborhood.
How do we know it's not Andrew?
That's right. My alter ego already partying for the weekend, you know.
Yeah. I'm just curious, those who are still watching, did any of those tools kind of influence you to want to try it if they were not normally doing that? Or what do you think?
Sure. I think it's got everyone's curiosity piqued. So, and I'm more of like a Photoshop and Firefly guy. So,
yeah,
we went over Adobe Firefly. We went over, Adobe Firefly, Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop. So,
and Adobe Stock. Don't forget that.
And Terry Davis says, I'll give them a try.
Good. I think the more we, like I said, communicate and, both Andrew and I are community experts. So we have their ear sometimes. So if you're, seriously like, people are saying that they want this or they want that. We get a chance to talk to them too and say, we just had a user group meeting and everybody wants X, we can give them feedback because they're looking for that. They're looking to improve their products every day. And that is one of the best things about Adobe is they are listening and they're like, okay, we gotta put people on this project or we need to put people on that.
We could even run polls in our group sometime.
Yeah.
So yeah, D. Wilson says, thank you very much. Very cool stuff.
Thanks for coming.
Miro says, I would definitely use the mock-up one for my personal branding for my class this month. Aiken, thanks for all the great info and positive vibes. Sarah and Andrew. Liked also Sarah preparing presentation in Adobe Express showing the app's potential. Yep. A lot of great apps.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, yeah, I'm excited about the future. So,
sure.
Anything to make everybody's lives easier, for sure.
Yeah, a mixture of our creativity and the ease of AI coming together. So thanks everyone for watching. Thank you so much, Sarah. It was great.
Yeah, and don't forget, in June, I will have you on the Tampa Adobe user group. I will have you presenting, Andrew. So everybody look out for that.
Excellent. And just to let people know, I will be doing another live next Friday with Andrea Batz-Latson with generative AI in Adobe Express. So
awesome.
Until next time, as Edward says.
Hi, Edward.
Thanks, everybody. And keep your eye on the link in the different groups where you can watch the recording on my YouTube channel, which I should have had that as one of the links, but it's the Drew Cav YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Terry says thanks. Thanks everybody. Have a great one, and do watch the recording after. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.